Boston in winter always smells like cold metal and sugar, a mix of city frost and bakery sweetness. On my 26th birthday, both hung heavy in our brownstone. The living room glowed with golden light. My mother, ever the hostess, adjusted the candles on a 3-tier cake that looked like something out of a magazine. My father poured champagne, humming tunelessly, pretending we were the kind of family who laughed easily. Kayla shimmered in silk beside him, her lips curved into a perfect, practiced smile. I tried to believe the night could be soft, that maybe, just maybe, we'd make it through one celebration without the familiar ache. But then I caught Kayla's gaze. Her eyes weren't on me. They were on the emerald choker resting against my collarbone, the one Grandma Ruth had pressed into my palm 5 years ago. Her voice had trembled then, "Keep it close, Nora. It's yours. Always yours." As the guests gathered, Kayla leaned close, her perfume too sweet, her whisper sharper than glass. "Give it to me," she said, still smiling. "It'll look better on me." I froze. The air shifted, heavy, expectant. I felt the old fear, the one that always came before a storm, but I found my voice. "No, Kayla. It's mine." My mother's eyes flicked up like knives. My father's jaw tightened. And before I could brace for it, the world broke open. The cake, the perfect, towering cake, wobbled, tilted, then fell. Frosting splattered across my hair, my face, my dress. A gasp, a laugh, a phone camera click. I didn't cry. I just stood there, breathing sugar and humiliation. When I finally spoke, it was to no one in particular. "I'm done." I pulled the necklace from my neck, wiped the frosting with a napkin, and tucked it into my purse. Then I walked out, past laughter, past pity, into the raw bite of Boston air. On the steps outside, I called the only person who had ever stayed gentle when the world wasn't. "Grandpa?" "Nora," his voice came steady, warm. "They threw a cake on me." Silence. Then, "Come see me in the morning." No questions. No scolding. Just love. The night wind cut through my dress, but I didn't shiver. Something colder had already frozen inside me, and something fiercer was beginning to thaw. Morning broke pale over the highway. I drove with the necklace beside me in its velvet pouch, the radio off, the world quiet. When I reached Barnstable, the Cape air met me like an exhale I didn't know I'd been holding. Grandpa Henry stood on his porch, coffee steaming in one hand, calm as the ocean behind him. He didn't ask what happened. He just opened the door. Inside, the kitchen smelled like toast and forgiveness. I told him everything, from Kayla's whisper to the frosting dripping down my neck. He listened without interruption, only nodding when I ran out of words. Finally, he said, "Ruth saw this coming. That's why she gave you the necklace. She wanted you to remember you belonged to yourself." Then he pulled out a folder. Thick, neat, marked with my name. "This," he said softly, "is the Campbell Family Trust. It's yours now." The words didn't sink in right away. My fingers brushed the papers, but it felt unreal, like touching lightning. He continued, voice steady. "I've watched your parents choose noise over meaning. You choose quiet and care. You protect what matters. That's what families are built on. Not blood. Not inheritance. Integrity." Angela, his attorney, arrived within the hour. The signatures came one after another, the sound of pens against paper like a heartbeat steadying itself. When it was done, Grandpa smiled. "You're the trustee now. You'll know what to do." I cried quietly, not from greed, but from being seen, really seen, for the first time in years. By dusk, I stood outside again. The sea wind whipped my hair, but inside me, the tide had shifted. I wasn't the girl covered in cake anymore. I was the woman who'd been handed both a legacy and a chance to begin again. The brownstone looked different when I returned. The bricks seemed sharper, the windows colder. My parents sat in the kitchen, wine glasses clinking, laughter rehearsed. I stood at the doorway, documents in hand. "We need to talk," I said. They turned, annoyed. I told them about the trust. About Grandpa's decision. About the legal transfer. My father laughed, the cruel kind. My mother rolled her eyes. Kayla's smile was venom in silk. Then I placed the certified deed on the counter. The laughter died. Their faces drained of color. "You have 2 weeks," I said quietly. "After that, the house is mine." They shouted, threatened, begged, insulted. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. Steady beats loud. When I walked upstairs that night, the necklace lay glowing faintly on the nightstand. I clasped it around my neck again. It felt like armor. For 9 days, they packed in rage. On the 10th, they left, the boxes banging, doors slamming, Kayla glaring like she could burn me down. I thought it was over. But cruelty rarely leaves quietly. 2 days later, the phone rang. My mother's voice was syrup sweet. "We're sorry, Nora. Let's start over. Kayla needs the necklace for a gala. Please." I almost laughed. "You threw a cake on me. You don't get to borrow forgiveness." I hung up gently, not angrily. There's a difference. Life began to unfold. I repainted the walls, scrubbed the frosting stain from the rug, filled the air with music instead of tension. For the first time, the house felt like it belonged to me, not just legally, but spiritually. Then came the knock. A sheriff's deputy. A folded paper. A lawsuit. My parents claimed undue influence, arguing Grandpa had been of unsound mind. I was barred from managing the trust until the hearing. The city lights that night blurred behind my hotel window. Fear tried to crawl in, but something stronger had already taken its place. Friday. Courthouse. Angela beside me. My parents across the aisle. Kayla scrolling on her phone. The judge read through pages of legalese, then looked up, expression unreadable. Angela presented every record, the trust, the receipts, Grandpa's ledger, even the notebook in his looping handwriting. When Grandpa appeared on video, his eyes were bright and certain. "She's steady," he said. "She'll protect what I built." For a moment, I thought I'd won. Then my parents' lawyer produced an old document, a life estate granting them control of the brownstones' basement apartment. The judge's voice was final, the trust stands. The life estate stands. You share this building, and this history. Victory and grief twisted together. I had gained everything, yet still had to live beside the people who once threw cake at me. When court adjourned, my mother approached. "Give Kayla the necklace," she said softly. "Let's end this." I looked her in the eye. I already did. I gave it to the part of me you couldn't break. Weeks passed. The legal dust settled. I rented the Cambridge house to a young family who painted the nursery yellow. I restored the barn on Grandpa's land and bought a small boat for him in Quincy. I rebuilt quietly, steadily. Sometimes, at night, I'd sit by the brownstone window and look at the reflection of the city lights dancing on the emerald stones around my neck. They glowed like memory, like forgiveness that didn't need to be spoken aloud. My parents still lived in the basement, bitter, confined by the very walls they once ruled. Kayla stopped visiting. The house above them thrived. Peace, I realized, isn't loud. It's not revenge. It's painting over old stains and hearing silence without fear. In one of his last letters, Grandpa wrote, "Steady isn't small, Nora. It's the only thing that holds when everything else cracks." Now, when people ask where I live, I say, Boston. In the house I reclaimed. When they ask what I do, I say, I keep things steady. Because steady always beats loud.